Hello, BookTube. I've had a rough week. This is Weekly Reads. Fortunately, some of my reading has been a much welcomed respite from my crappy week, or the parts of my week that have been quite crappy. I started my reading week with the intention of focusing on the two book month-long BookTube events that I'm participating in. Remember December and DNF December, or Bell Redemption December, as I call it. So, for those of you who don't know, Remember December is an event in which participants reread books in the month of December. And DNF December, or Bell Redemption December, whatever you call your not finishing a book, is one in which you sort of give a second or third shot or more shots of a book that you have previously DNF'd. So I started my reading week with a book for Remember December, Wild Sea by Joy McCann. This is a short history of the Southern Ocean, or Great Southern Ocean, which is the body of water that surrounds Antarctica and extends north to the coasts of Australia, New Zealand, South America, and South Africa. And so the book looks at human interactions with the Southern Ocean, the exploration, commercial exploitation, scientific study of the Southern Ocean, some of the sort of northern coastal regions of the Southern Ocean, the biology, the natural history of the Southern Ocean. So the book is good. It's a good day's reading. I quite like it. I don't particularly love it. It's okay. More than okay. I quite like it. So this is my second reread. So this is the third time I've read it, and I enjoy it every time I read it. It's fascinating. So yeah, so that was a positive. I also intended to, over the course of the work week, read Empires of Vice. This is for Bell Redemption December. Empires of Vice: The Rise of Opium Prohibition Across Southeast Asia by Dennis Kim. So this is a look at the beginnings of drug prohibition, particularly in regards to opium in the Southeast Asian colonies that were under the suzerainty of Britain and France, primarily Malaysia and what is now Vietnam. The book is incredibly dense and boring, and that's why I bailed on it the first time and why I bailed on it the second time. So this is a Bell Redemption rejection. Now, I had some time, so I decided to have a go at Southern Decadence in New Orleans by Howard Phillips Smith and Frank Perez, which is, again, for Bell Redemption December. I had to go at this book a year or two ago, and I don't think it quite works. And that feeling was pretty much, I had the same feeling this time around as well, that I'm not entirely sure Southern Decadence really warrants a book length study. It's probably more of a piece, either in a history journal or some kind of long form magazine. And I think particularly with regards to Empires of Vice, I'm kind of wondering if maybe some books just don't really need to be well redeemed. But anyway, so that was that. Now, I read Wild Sea over the course of Saturday, so I had my Sunday free. So I read some manga, and quite a bit of manga. I hauled on Saturday volume 36 of My Hero Academia by Kohei Horikoshi. This is a series inspired by American superhero comics. In the future, 80% of humanity have superpowers called quirks. One of the 80% or one of the 20% who don't have superpowers is a young man named Izuku Midoriya, who idolizes superheroes, who are people with quirks who have become professional superheroes. However, one day Izuku meets his idol All Might, the #1 hero in Japan, and Izuku's heroism, his innate heroism, even though he has no superpowers, inspires All Might to take Izuku on as his apprentice. And All Might grants Izuku his quirk, One for All, which allows Izuku to display a number of powers that have been stocked up by previous users of One for All. So Izuku matriculates to UA, the top superhero academy in Japan, and while Izuku is a student at UA, alongside his bully, rival, friend, Katsuki Bakugo, things start going to hell in a handbasket. For many years, most supervillains have laid low, but now they're starting to stir to make moves. Amongst them is a group called the League of Villains, which are sponsored by a supervillain called All for One, who is sort of the dark mirror of One for All, and his protege Shigaraki. So by this point, volume 36, the final arc has commenced. The heroes have lured All for One and Shigaraki into what they hope to be a trap, where basically All for One and Shigaraki and their allies are all split up and are each taken on by a group of heroes. The idea being that Izuku would be going under the codename of Deku, would be fighting Shigaraki, while others would be handling All for One. That doesn't quite go to plan. Izuku is missing. He's been transported somewhere else, so he's trying to get to where he's supposed to be. Meanwhile, the other heroes have begun their fights with the villains. So this volume is divided into 3 amazing fights. The first one is the fight featured on the cover between Shoto Todoroki and his villainous older brother Toya Todoroki, who goes by the villain name Dabi. Their father, Endeavor, who is the current #1 hero, hoped to supplant All Might. And if Endeavor couldn't do it, then one of his children would. Toya was his initial hope, and that did not turn out well, and Endeavor believed that Toya died. However, he was saved and basically manipulated into becoming a villain. And so Endeavor's attention then shifted to his youngest child, Shoto, who is a classmate of Izuku's and is one of his best friends. And their fight is amazing. The back and forth, it's just wonderful. The second fight is between Endeavor, Hawks, and Hawks' apprentice, Tokoyami, I think, and Earjack. And all for one, and that is a really good fight. Particularly the cliffhanger at the end; it's nicely done. And then the final fight is between Bakugo, Best Janist, and a number of other heroes against Shigaraki, and that fight is just, it is brutal, and the cliffhanger is, yeah. So I'm going to show you some pictures now. Yeah, really like this sort of character introduction, even though not all of the cast are shown. It's only All Might, Izuku, Shoto, and Katsuki. But let's see here if I can get some really cool. Oh, there's that. And that. Mm-hmm. This volume just blew me away, particularly the that final chapters in this volume were just amazing. So I'm going to try not to spoil it, but I do want to give some really cool scenes. Oh yeah. So, I mean, there's only a few volumes of, and I liked that group. Yeah, Lemillion, who's this character here, he is a trip. There's that. But yeah, this volume ends on a heartbreak, just an absolute heartbreak. Okay, so the second thing I read on Sunday was Alice in Borderland Volume 1 by Haro also. So, this is a 2-in-1 edition, which is how they're published in the US. So, Alice in Borderland is a sci-fi take on Alice in Wonderland. It's about a young man named Arisu, who, along with two of his friends, get transported to a seemingly abandoned Tokyo that is in ruins. He, his friends, and others are forced to play life and death games. And for every game they complete, if they survive, they are given a few more days of residency in this alternate Tokyo. However, if your residency permit, your visa expires, you're lasered. And so this volume features two of the game, or these volumes feature 2 games. The first one that Arisu and his friends encounter, the 3 of clubs, where each participant is given a question to answer, and the first one is given a clue of how to be safe. And for every wrong answer, depending how far off you are, you get flaming arrows shot at you. And it gets to be ridiculous at the end. The second game is a murderous game of tag in an abandoned apartment complex, and I really loved this volume. It was amazing. I want more Alice in Borderland. I think I'm definitely going to pick some more up here soon. And I like the artwork. Yeah, so this was fantastic. Definitely looking forward to more Alice in Borderland. And then the final 3 volumes I read on Sunday are all part of Four Nights of the Apocalypse by Nakaba Suzuki. I read volumes 2, 3, and 4. So, The Four Nights of the Apocalypse is the sequel series to The Seven Deadly Sins. So, Four Nights of the Apocalypse takes place a little more than 16 years after the end of The Seven Deadly Sins. So as the series begins, Britannia is threatened by a corrupted King Arthur. King Arthur has created an alternate Camelot, which had been destroyed in the Holy War of 16 years previously. And Arthur has developed an anti-non-human agenda. So he desires to create a Britannia that does not include fairies or giants or goddesses or demons, which all exist in this setting. However, there is a prophecy that 4 young future knights, the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, will come together and bring about his downfall. So one of Arthur's agendas is to prevent this from happening, as well as continuing his goal of creating a human-only Britannia. So one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse is a young man named Percival, the green-haired guy on the cover. Percival saw his father murder his grandfather, and he has since left his home on God's finger and is traveling, looking to find his father to beat him up and find out why exactly his father did what he did. While Percival travels, he encounters a former Holy Knight trainee named Donnie and a talking fox named Sin, who has been sent out to locate the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse and bring them to Leonis. In this volume, and pretty much the arc that covers these 3 volumes as well as the first volume, is Percival slowly gathering his friend group. So in the first volume, Donnie is introduced. In this volume, a character named Nascence is introduced, who lives in Echo Gorge, where his adoptive father has created a place where humans, fairies, and giants can live together. However, this flies in the face of King Arthur's desires, so one of Arthur's holy knights has launched an attack on Echo Gorge, for which Nascence is blamed for. And Percival clears up. The second, and so then they travel on, where they meet Anne, who is a young woman, the daughter of a holy knight, who can tell when somebody's lying. And she knows that Percival's father is very corrupt and he has no good intentions, which ultimately includes the sacrifice of her hometown to try to seal away the fairies and giants and demons that live in Britannia. And then in the fourth volume, the group begins their proper travel to reach Leonis. However, before they do that, they make a pit stop to pick up supplies, and while they're doing that, they have an adventure featuring Donnie's uncle, who is revealed to be the chief holy knight of Leonis, Hauser. And his reappearance, it's amazing. We also learned that Sin is not exactly what he appears to be, although who exactly he is remains to be seen. But I really enjoyed these volumes. They were a blast, an absolute blast. The Camelot Holy Knights are every bit as nasty and corrupt as the corrupted Leonis Holy Knights were from the Seven Deadly Sins. So let's see here. Yeah, there's Nascence. Then there's Percival with a wild hairdo. So yeah, I really enjoyed these. Volumes. And Percival is just an absolute delight to read. Just an absolute delight. So here's one of the Talisker, one of the corrupt Camelot Holy Knights. So yeah. Yeah, and the fight between Ironside and Percival and his friends are amazing. And I especially love how devoted they all become to each other. Just it is like amazing. Okay, so I'm not going to show anything from volume 4 because I am very much taking a long time for this, and I have 3 more volumes of manga to talk about, which I read today, which was very much needed. I really needed to read some manga today, and these 3 volumes are amazing. 2 of which I talked about earlier today because I hauled them today. So first up is volume 19 of Taliban Hanako-kun by AidaIro. This is a fantastic series. I love it. It's about a young woman named Nene who goes to one of the most haunted schools in Japan. Nene is told that if she goes to a specific toilet stall and performs a set ritual, she will be able to summon the spirit known as the Tolabao Hanako-san. Nene goes, she performs the summoning ritual, and Hanako-san appears. However, this particular Hanako-san is not the spirit of a young woman, but of a young man. The ghost of a student at the school who is some years younger than Nene, hence the title Hanako-kun. Hanako-kun, his real name is Amane Yugi, serves as one of the school's 7 mysteries. And as the 7th, he has a regulatory authority over the other 6, as well as lesser hauntings of the school. He and Nene, he basically takes Nene on as an assistant after rescuing Nene from a mistake that she made. And so Nene helps him initially with menial tasks, but eventually she helps him in his duty of regulating the relationships between the living and the supernatural at the school. They are joined by Ko Minamoto, who is a young trainee exorcist who, while initially trying to exorcise Hanako-kun Amane, becomes friends with Amane and Nene, and he joins them on their adventures. It's revealed that someone is manipulating the rumors of the supernaturals at the school, making them more malevolent, more malicious. And in order to defeat these corrupted, and to bring these supernaturals back to their senses, particularly the 7 mysteries, their Yoroshiros have to be destroyed, their seals of office, which are usually attached to items of great importance, which Nene can destroy. So the people behind changing the rumors, the stories about these supernaturals, is revealed to be Tsukasa, Mane's deceased twin brother's ghost, and his assistants in the broadcasting club, Sakura and Natsuhiko. This volume wraps up a long-running storyline in which the 6th school mystery takes one of Nene's friends to the far shore. And since she comes from a line of sacrificial priestesses, her sacrifice acts as a severance that removes the supernaturals from the school and the town. Nene, Ko, and Ko's older brother Teru, and a classmate of Nene's, Akane, travel to the shores to rescue Aoi and to pretty much bring the supernaturals back, because Nene doesn't want to let go of Mane, and Ko has a supernatural friend named Mitsuba. So this arc wraps up, or this volume wraps up that arc, and finishes it with a very moving, very impactful wrap up. It is brutal. Also drops a number of story beats for the future, a lot of foreshadowing for the future, and ends on a rather happy note, a really delightful short arc. So I loved this. It was amazing. Also, one thing we learned is that neither Sakura nor Natsuhiko are what they appear to be. And exactly who is pulling the strings in the broadcasting club is quite up for debate. So there's that little Shitsukasa. And that. So I want to get to that. And I love the artwork. The artwork is just amazing. So that. And that's this here is the sixth school mystery, Hakubo, the god of death, and this here is Sumiri, who was his god's bride, sacrificial victim. And the conclusion of their storyline is just something else. And so that was the first arc. And then so the second arc is where Ko and his older brother Teru have a bit of a heart-to-heart. That's some spoilers there. And the conclusion of that arc is that. And the conclusion to this volume is just really, I like how the characters interact and sort of work out their issues, and particularly sort of the development of Aoi and Akane's relationship. That's very nice. I'm curious to see if Aoi will become sort of involved in the adventures. And it was also nice to see sort of the relationship of Teru and Ko and how they worked out their differences in a quite humorous way, in which because Teru is, I mean, he's pretty much he's like an ideal student character, but he is horrible in the kitchen, while Ko is really like a gifted cook. But he's not entirely sure about being an exorcist. He wants to be one, but in a way he has developed friendships with supernaturals, Amane and Mitsuba, even though Mitsuba is not really mentioned all that much in this volume, except for the final pages, which is really sort of just like that, which is a perfect preview for the next volume, which I cannot wait for. Unfortunately, I don't think volume 20 is available for pre-order yet, because since Taliban Hanako-kun is a monthly series, it usually has about 2 to 3 volumes a year, depending, I think. So I don't know exactly when volume 20 will become available for pre-order. I also read volume 3 of Demons of the Shadow Realm by Hiromu Arakawa. So this is Arakawa's latest series. It's set in modern-day Japan, and it's about two twins, Yoru and Asa. They were born in a village that has separated itself from modern Japan. And Yoru and Asa are prophesied twins who sort of border light and dark. Yuru was allowed to live freely in the village, whereas Asa was forced to live in captivity. However, one day the village is attacked, and the woman leading the attack is revealed to be the real Asa. That 10 years previously, Yuru and Asa's parents fled the village with Asa. And after the attack, Yuru leaves the village with 2 guardian demons left and right, as well as Dara, a affiliate of the village who lives in the modern world. And Yuru is wanting to find out, is this woman Asa? And where are our parents? And so in this volume, Yuru is sort of talking to the people who have taken Asa in, the Kagamori clan, and trying to figure out, okay, how are my village and the Kagamori related? What's going on? And so this is a lot of build up, and it's really funny. The heir to the Kagamori family is a mangaka, manga artist, and he is a hoot who has demons appropriate for his job. It's just, it was amazing, and Yuru and Asa are amazing. I particularly love Yuru's unfamiliarity with modern Japan, and Asa, she is just her interactions, her sort of the fact that she hasn't seen her brother for 10 years and is trying to get to know him, even as they are largely on opposite sides and yet on the same side. It is really, really fun. And I really enjoyed this. Let's see if I can find some really cool images. And I also really like there is a fake out later in the volume that I thought was just a hoot. So I'm like, I cannot wait for volume 4 to come out. I need to make a note of finding out when this volume comes out, because I cannot wait for more Demons of the Shadow Realm. And I also tried a new number 1 volume today. This is Great Priest Imhotep, Volume 1 by Makoto Morishita. So this is a series set in contemporary Japan, but it's about a ancient Egyptian priest, Imhotep, who was deified centuries after his death. And so this particular iteration of Imhotep is sent or unsealed in modern day Japan to take on, to hunt down Magai, imitation gods. So demons who take the form of and claim to be the gods of ancient Egyptian mythology. So M encounters a young woman named Hinome, who is the daughter of a family who collect occult artifacts, and this has made her a pariah amongst her classmates. Hinome has been cursed, in that if she opens her mouth, fire comes out. She's been effectively possessed by Magai of Sekhmet. So Imhotep comes, defeats Sekhmet, and then they sort of slowly form a friendship. And Hinome kind of comes out of her shell and begins to make friends. And this was a hoot. Just an absolute hoot of a first volume. So I'm definitely wanting to pick up more volumes of M, which there are only 11 volumes, so it shouldn't be that hard to do. So yeah, this was definitely a lot of fun. So yeah, so that was quite a blast. So what do I plan to be reading this coming reading week? Given that this is already a 42-minute long video, I need to wrap this up. So my plan for this weekend is to do a Bell Redemption for DNF December and Bell Redemption December. I'm hoping to Bell redeem The Black Book by Orhan Pamuk. So I picked this up shortly after Pamuk won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Not this exact book. I mean, it's this exact book, but not this exact copy, which I picked up about a year or so ago from Alibris. Because at the time, I periodically get a yearning to, read the laureates for the Nobel Prize in Literature. And so I picked this up, and I didn't get on with it. But last year, I had an urge to pick up some Nobel Prize winners, either those that I have previously read as well as those that I have previously built on, and try to give them a second read or a Bell Redemption. And I just hadn't gotten around to The Black Book, although with Remember December, Bell Redemption December, not Remember December, DNF December, I thought that would be a great time to have a go at this book. So hopefully it will be a Bell Redemption. And then I'm also hoping to get to for Remember December, A Dancer from the Dance by Andrew Holleran. This is a classic of gay literature that I have had for over 20 years now, and it has been probably about 20 years since I've read it. So actually, it has been over 20 years since I've read it. And it is over 20 years since I've bought it or was gifted it. Because I think I read this in high school. I might have been in college, but I think it's been over 20 years since I read this. So it would be a great read for Remember December. And so that's my plan for this coming reading week, although if it changes, you'll find out next Friday. And what I hope will not be nearly so long a video. Anyway, BookTube, I need to wrap this up. So thank you. Have a great rest of your evening and weekend. And until I see you hopefully on Monday, stay safe.